What you are about to experience is out of this world. Politics, history, and of course, a lot of entertainment. It's time to rock it with the Docket.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with our very 122nd episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. And if you are excited to be here as well, make sure to go down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so then you never miss one of my videos. So, before we dive super deep into this video, I want to make something very clear. January 6th was a terrible situation, and it was something that shouldn't have happened at all. I'm still of the belief that there were idiots at the Capitol that did stupid things, and if they broke the law, they should be thrown in jail. However, I knew that something was a little bit fishy about January 6th. As in the first video I ever made about January 6th, called Idiots, I claimed that one of these Trump supporters smashed a police officer's face in with a fire extinguisher. Then, on the second episode where I talked about January 6th, called A Day to Remember, I had to explain that that story was actually fake. The police officer tragically passed away after January 6th, and his death wasn't even related to the insurrection at the Capitol. However, the New York Times still has the article up claiming that the officer died at the Capitol. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and other politicians have claimed that police officers were killed on January 6th. And this just isn't true. So the media and the politicians have created this narrative that January 6th was the worst day in American history. They're comparing it to 9/11. They're comparing it to Pearl Harbor. But what if that was all a big fat lie? What if there was a different side of the January 6th story? One that tells a story of random people just walking around the Capitol, taking pictures, following the velvet ropes, and walking in single file lines. It would be hard to believe because the media has pushed this narrative that our democracy was literally in danger for so long that we have become desensitized to their words. We must remember that the Capitol is huge. It actually has 4 different entrances. There's a possibility that some of these entrances were violent and people were acting like idiots and hitting police officers, and they should be condemned and thrown in jail. However, on the other side of the Capitol, the police could have been waving people in. Yes, this actually happened, as a man named Matthew Martin had his misdemeanor charge dropped after video came out showing 2 Capitol police officers waving him into the Capitol. There was no fight, there was no struggle, no hitting the police officers, he was just able to walk right in. The important part about this story is when you have the video evidence of something, you start to see a fuller picture that pierces different lies. This is why Democrats literally lost their marbles when the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, gave Tucker Carlson complete access to all the January 6th footage. That's right, every last piece of it. The Democrats started to claim that this would give the terrible, evil right-wingers tools for the next insurrection. To the Democrats, this was a dangerous threat to our democracy because we can't have someone else going through the footage of January 6th. That was the job of the January 6th committee. They were bipartisan. You know they had 2 Republicans on the committee.
Are you serious?
However, Tucker Carlson and his team found out that the January 6th committee actually edited videos, as it was reported that the January 6th committee added audio to silent CCTV footage, inserted screams and other crowd mayhem sounds to make it seem more ominous. Now, why in the world would the committee do this? Well, the committee wanted to build the narrative that people were dying on the ground. There were bombs going off. And while all of this was going on, AOC was in a building 2 blocks away dying. It shows that the January 6th committee was nothing but a political sham. And now the same videos that Tucker Carlson has, the January 6th committee also had, but they only released the videos that fit their narrative. Now, you can claim that Tucker Carlson is doing the exact same thing, and that's a good point. But what Tucker Carlson is releasing is footage that has never been seen before by anyone because it seems to be covered up. Like, for example, the QAnon shaman. The man that you have seen every time January 6th comes up. He is the man with the big horns on his head, acting a little bit like an idiot. But we didn't know his full story until right now, as somehow he was able to get into the Capitol, he was able to walk around, and even get into the Senate chamber. Now, how was he able to do this? Weren't there police all over the place trying to stop this evil, terrible man from taking over our democracy? No! It looks like from the video footage that was released by Tucker Carlson that the cops were actually helping the horn-wearing man.
What? What?
That's right, the Capitol police officers were walking around with this guy. They were going to different doors, seeing if they could get in. And when they couldn't, they tried to use their keys to get in. If that didn't work, they tried to find another way in. Just take a look at this video, it's shocking.
To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us into the building.
Are you telling me that the man that became the face of this terrible insurrection was actually let into the Senate chambers peacefully by the police? Then, when he and his buddies got in there, the horned man actually prayed for the police officers and thanked them. These men weren't scared of the cops because they didn't think that they were doing anything wrong. To these men, they weren't committing an act of insurrection. To them, they weren't scared of the police because it seemed like the police were almost helping them in some way. The police had many opportunities to tell this guy, hey, get out of here, go away, leave the Capitol, or they even could have arrested him right there. And guess what? I believe that if the police told him to get away, that he would have listened and went the other direction. Even if he was arrested right there, I still believe he would have respected the police. It's almost like the media wanted this guy to be the face of the insurrection because he is dressed crazy, and every picture of him you see is him screaming or yelling, even though he was calm with the police. This is also why the media and the January 6th committee hid this video of the QAnon shaman, because it destroys the narrative that shows the lies that the media and the January 6th committee had tried to play for so long. The January 6th committee even lied about Josh Hawley, as they claimed that he cowardly left the Capitol, and people laughed at him. Just take a look at this video. But if you watch the whole video, it shows that other members of the House were running out of the building before him.
In fact, the surveillance footage we reviewed shows that famous clip was a sham, edited deceptively by the January 6th committee. The clip was propaganda, not evidence. The actual videotape shows that Hawley was one of many lawmakers being ushered out of the building by Capitol Hill police officers. And in fact, Hawley was at the back of the pack. The coward tape was a lie. One of many from the January 6th committee.
So what was it? Was he a coward for leaving, or was he courageous because he made sure that other people got out before him, as he was the one that was one of the last to leave? All of this was political slander, and now that slander is coming for Tucker Carlson, as even Republicans are getting angry at Tucker Carlson. As the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said, "It was a mistake in my view for Fox News to depict this in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement officers here at the Capitol thinks." And of course, the Democrats came out claiming that Tucker Carlson was an evil racist terrorist, as Chuck Schumer claimed that Tucker's show was One of the most despisable, shameful hours we have ever seen on cable television. Then, of course, we have The View, which once again, I hate talking about The View, but they are just so terrible that I think they have to be talked about. As Whoopi Goldberg claimed that Tucker Carlson was taking a page out of George Orwell's novel 1984 and told his audience to reject the evidence that they saw with their own eyes. She also claimed,
you know, I don't know what he's playing at, but people saw what they saw. They saw what they saw. And they've seen what's gone down with it. And no matter what, you can't put this monkey back in the cage. You can't.
I know what people saw, and that was one side of the story. No one had ever seen the footage that Tucker Carlson released. But now that it's released to the public so everyone can see it, it is now a threat to our democracy and akin to 1984. 1984 is about how the government controls people and how the political party either destroys old news stories from the past or don't show people the full truth. That is exactly what the Democrats have done in this situation. They have hidden these videotapes for so long, and then they claim that it is a threat to our democracy when they're released? Hiding that information is more 1984 than releasing the videotapes because people should be able to see what happened at the Capitol from both sides, not just one side that the media has been pushing for 2 whole years. It is just ridiculous to me that it took this long to get the full picture of what happened at the Capitol. We know that there was violence. We know that there were people that were injured, and it was a scary day for the people inside the Capitol. I get that 100%. Tucker Carlson even mentioned that in his segment, but the media wants to hide that. They want you to think that Tucker Carlson made these people look like sightseers. Like I said, there were idiots there that did idiotic things, and they should be condemned and arrested if they committed a crime. However, this situation shows us that it is wrong to hide evidence. Evidence that could have freed some of these January 6 rioters. Just like we saw with Matthew Martin. There may be other people that are locked up in solitary confinement right now that could be exonerated of all their crimes by these different videos. But instead, they are hidden by the government. This was the case made by the lawyer that was defending the horned QAnon shaman. As he claimed, what's deeply troubling is the fact that I have to watch Tucker Carlson to find video footage which the government has, but chose not to disclose despite the absolute duty to do so, and despite being requested in writing to do so multiple times. Then there was also evidence that the FBI actually tried to destroy evidence in a case involving a group known as the Proud Boys, as they are currently under investigation for their involvement on January 6th. As on January 6th, they marched from the Washington Monument over to the Capitol. Now, I will say that I don't agree with the Proud Boys at all. I know that they have some very extreme ideas that should be condemned. However, even if they are a terrible group of people that should be condemned, they still have a right to all the evidence that is involved in their case. Because everyone in America is innocent until proven guilty. In this case, it looks like the FBI agents somehow got the text messages between the Proud Boys leader and his attorney, which should have been protected under attorney-client privilege. And then there were more messages that came out where an FBI agent's boss told an agent to destroy 338 items of evidence. Now, we don't know what that evidence is, but what if it was important to this trial? What if it proved that the Proud Boys or other groups had nothing to do with January 6th or invading the Capitol at all? All of this just boggles my mind because I know that there were people at the Capitol on that day that went into the building and didn't cause any violence at all. And they were still arrested. Some of them are still in jail to this day. These people are trying to plead their case, and they claim that they didn't do anything wrong. They were just following the crowd of people, or a police officer waved them in, or they were just recording the events that unfolded, and then they were arrested and put on house arrest. And then there was a man named Ray Epps who yelled and screamed at everyone, telling them that they needed to go into the Capitol on January 5th. Was this man arrested? No. And after January 6th, he was on the America's Most Wanted list. And then, a few days later, he was taken off that list. How is it that a person like Matthew Martin, who was waved into the Capitol, or the QAnon shaman guy that was calmly walking around the Capitol with Capitol police officers, and walked into the Senate chamber arrested and faced with years of prison, but Ray Epps, who encouraged people to go into the Capitol, is just let off free? Is there a possibility that this man was a federal agent? Now, this has been a conspiracy theory for a long time, but ever since the lab leak theory turned out to be true, I don't know what to believe anymore. We do know that there was a huge story in Michigan as the FBI stopped a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists from kidnapping the governor, as there were 4 men that were charged with planning the kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer, but they were swayed to do so by FBI informants and federal agents. There are many people that believe that this was just a trial run for the January 6th insurrection, because there is evidence that there were FBI agents that influenced the Proud Boys group, as according to the New York Times, there were 8 informants in the group for months before January 6th even happened. What were these FBI agents telling these men? Were they telling them to go into the Capitol? The world may never know. There was even a hearing about the situation where Ted Cruz asked senior FBI official Jill Sanborn if there were any FBI agents that participated in January 6th, and she responded by saying that she can't answer that question.
How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
The more that this evidence comes out, the more I get to thinking that all of this was a planned attack. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the evidence seems to be stacking up. FBI agents trying to get groups like the Proud Boys to go into the Capitol, Ray Epps telling everyone to go into the Capitol, and everyone around him calling him a Fed. And the idea that Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C. didn't want to send more officers to the Capitol to help clear out the people? I don't know, it almost seems like the Democrats wanted this situation to happen, but I won't believe anything until the full picture is shown, and this is why releasing this new footage is so important. As there is a meme that explains all of this perfectly. As in the photo, there is a person holding a camera, and it's pointing at what looks like a man with a knife trying to kill another man with a knife. But once you zoom out, you see that it was only the guy's shoe that actually looked like a knife, and the guy that was going to get stabbed actually has the knife in his hand. The media wanted you to see one side of the January 6th insurrection, and they ignored people that were peaceful and are still in jail to this day. We have seen from the past 2 years that the FBI concealed evidence, like not releasing all the January 6th footage. They destroyed evidence and violated attorney-client privilege. All of this is against the 6th Amendment, which gives us all a right to a speedy trial. So, in the end, it is either time to release these January 6 rioters or get them in a courtroom with all of the evidence available. Some of them might be guilty, but at least we now have the full picture. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Dockery Docket. And until next time, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving, goodbye.